back to life, love, and real estate. As they say in Bond movies, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, three times is a habit. Well, they say enemy action, but now it's a habit. This is your third edition of Life, Love, and Real Estate. Daniel and Lacresa are back again to help you make your way through all three. How's it going, Lacresa?
It's going. I am adjusting back. I was at the beach last week, and now I am not at the beach. So I'm here, and I'm excited. Yeah,
that's a whole ass transition from being at the beach to not being at the beach. Like that is, how are you dealing with that emotionally?
It's an adjustment. It's an adjustment. It feels like you go away to relax, or I went away to. Oh, side note, I'm now a wedding officiant, so I went away to officiate a wedding, and it was beautiful and lovely and wonderful. And then you play catch up when you get back, so you feel behind, even though you went to relax, and so. It's a little jumbled, but I'm getting there. Oh my God, that's my alarm. This is so black.
Okay.
That I need to change my.
It is very black of you. To the point that I thought it was mine. I was like, "Ooh, is that my house?"
No, it's me.
I want to dig more in. That's hilarious. Couldn't have planned that. I want to dig more into the officiating. This is your first time doing this?
Yeah. So,
what was it like? What were the feelings? How did it go?
So I was just trying not to mess it up, like number one, I'm kind of last minute about some things. And so I got official. By the way, it's really easy to become an officiant of weddings. You just go online and you go to a website and you fill out some information. They're like, ta-da, here you are. So that was really easy. So that was the easy part. I think it was more so making sure that number one, I didn't mess it up. Mm-hmm. Number two, that I added to their moment, you know what I mean? And made it about them. And I wanted to come from the heart. And I asked the boys, I did a gay wedding. I asked the boys what they wanted. And they're like, speak from your heart. I was originally just surprised that they even asked me to do it. I thought it was a joke when they're like, you're going to officiate the wedding. And I was like, haha, you're so funny. And they're like, no, really. And I was like, really? And so we went back and forth about that. But yeah, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I did some standard words that you have to say. Right. In order to make it official. And other than that, it was off the cuff and they cried and people cried. And
I've officiated 7 weddings.
No. I mean, I knew you had to officiate some, but not that many.
I'm at 7 with my friends, 0 divorces, knock on wood. I always threaten them. I said, don't you dare ruin my stats. I'm 7-0. No one screw this up for me. I'm doing good numbers. But yeah, every time I get asked, it's such an honor.
We can do marry people. I'm a great party starter as well. And then we can talk to them about the transitions into home ownership and everything else. I mean, we could be this whole package deal of weddings, entertainment, real estate. How about that?
And then we'll close on your home using the money you got from gifts at your wedding. Let's have a full service.
We'll do crowdfunding for your first home or your first investment property. Hell yeah.
Look, we looked up at the end. We looked up at the end of our wedding and we're like, we were saving for a nice honeymoon. We're like, this is a down payment on the house. And like that, we took a weekend to the mountains on an Airbnb and decided to reallocate those funds to buying our first home. No kidding.
I have a friend, my bestie, her parents they had 4 girls. They gave every girl the option of, $10,000 for a wedding or $10,000 for a down payment on the house. Most of them took the wedding. My bestie took the down payment on the house. So
yeah, we paid for the wedding ourselves largely, and then we took the money from gifts and, like you said, other people and family and friends, and said, "Hey, that's going to help us finance this home."
Yeah, no, that's the next step for these boys. So when they're watching, because I remind them all the time, is now it's time to buy. He's married now. It's time to buy.
There we go.
Together. So
you were off doing something very romantical. We're coming off of a month of corporate romanticism in February. I gotta ask, have you seen this show, Love is Blind?
I used to be pretty obsessed with Love is Blind because I think the concept of it is really beautiful.
The concept of it's super beautiful, yeah.
It's reality. It's like theory versus practice, right? In my general practice, this is how I show up. And in theory, I would like to think that my better self shows up and vanity doesn't matter and looks doesn't matter and size doesn't matter. And so it's definitely, I think, it's a brilliant concept
We've
that
decided to lie to Matthew and tell
trash
him.
in reality. It's like,
We've decided to lie to Matthew and tell him that we met in a pilot season of Love Is Blind for as long as we can make that lie last. Like, I just think like little lies for your kid, like, oh no, every night the moon puts the sun to bed, and until they get taught otherwise, that's what they're gonna learn. Like, little fun lies for your kid are nice. Like that, it builds the magic of childhood. And so that's.
I've never heard that before. Every night the moon puts the sun to bed. That is sweet. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
just little things, just
right,
capture
so,
childhood stuff. So Love Is Blind is
like about Love Is Blind. Let's
so
back
Love
up.
Is okay. So Love Is Blind is back. It came back Valentine's Day, and I never watched it for years. I was out. I was just like, my reality show is The Challenge because I am old. I still watch The Challenge every Wednesday night. You can find me 8:00 MTV locked in. But I'll say this: Love Is Blind got me, I guess, 3 seasons ago or 4 seasons ago, and I've been in ever since. And this season is very boring. It's in Minneapolis. It is like 7 of the same man. I'm like, I can't tell these men apart. I need name tags. This is ridiculous. All their politics are garbage. It's all very interesting. But it did kind of make me think because part of the conversations they have in these, like, for those who don't know, Love Is Blind is a reality show produced by Netflix. They put people in these pods where you talk to someone through a wall. You determine if there's chemistry. You fall in love without seeing the person, and they propose sight unseen. Yeah, whatever. Fall in lots. Apply the air quotes where you'd feel like they fit because they're all over the place here. Then they go on the retreat where drama happens, and they have to live their lives together, where more drama happens, and then they get the final episode of will they, won't they say yes at the altar. And it's always entertaining at the very least.
Yes.
And so when Love Is Blind happened this year, I was very much out on the people. So now I'm trying to like, how do I make this interesting for myself? And it becomes like, let's see how these people, just kind of the communication styles. And it made me think, because I watched it with Susan, because she got us the gold goblets for Christmas. Like, she's all in. And so it made me think of like love languages and how these people are talking to each other and how it relates to home buying. And it sounds like a stretch for a lot of people. Like, what are you talking about? Maybe I'm just a weirdo and that's where my brain goes. But man, I've seen it so many times when someone says, here's what I'm looking for. Here's why I'm looking for it. And then you bring them the actual options. You're like, wait a second. I don't know if I actually like that. Like, for example, got a client I'm working with right now, fantastic folks. They were talking to me about interest rates. And so I gave them the side-by-side of the 3 interest rates. I'm like, here's what you're going to be saving a month. Here's what that actually dollar sign means a month. And here's how much it will cost you to get to that rate. And so it became a situation of knowing what they wanted as far as talking about rate, but then explaining what the rate actually meant. And then watching their needs and desires change. And I'm like the joke I always tell is, if you're going to cost you $5,000 to save $40 a month, I'll bring you a case of beer a month for you not to buy this down. I'll personally deliver you a case of decent beer a month for you not to buy this down because it makes no sense for you. And watching this and watching these people talk themselves into and the best is the men, because the men are like, I've never thought about these things. I'm like, you are a meathead. Like, you've never considered if you wanted children. It's never entered your mind, like cohabitating with someone. I'm usually a trash man, but now I want to be a good guy. And it's only because they've been locked in a room talking about these things for like a week. And so when they get home, we always revert back to type. We always become who we were before in times of crisis. You can say, I worked on my mechanics all off season. My throwing arm is better. The second things change on the field, you're going to go back to the form that got you there. And so for me, Love Is Blind is a good exercise in watching people communicate, but it's also a great exercise in understanding what people's love languages are and how they translate to home buying. Do you have a love language? Do you have a way that you show affection or you like it to be shown?
Ooh, okay. So this is so fun because I am also a little, this feels a little bit like therapy, which I have a little bit later today. I would say, I can't remember what the technical ones are.
Yeah,
right?
we're not professors.
None of that shit. But I can say that I'm a quality time person. That's just me. That's how I always have been. So I purposely like to spend intentional quality time with the people that I love. So I plan dates for friends. I plan dates with my sister. I plan dates with my mom, and I plan dates in the sense of with the person that I am intimate with. So quality time is my big one. I think people showing up is how I receive it.
Yeah.
In that sense, because showing up isn't convenient. And it's easy to show up when everything is great and everything is lovely and everything is kind. I think that people, like you said, you see your true nature in action. And a lot of times in relationships or when you're just meeting someone, people tend to show you who they want to be, not necessarily who they are. And I think that is a prime example of what Love is Blind is, right? You get into these conversations, you get intimate in a pod, you're having going down these roads that you haven't had to go down in a really long time. And you start to see the best of yourself and what you want and in someone else. And then reality kicks in, and people who are kind show kindness in horrible situations, right? People who are giving give even when they don't have much to give. And so it gives you a reflection of who you truly are, and that is scary for a lot of people. I'm a big believer that God always gives you what you want. It's just that you actually have to, depending on the work that you've done, will allow you to maintain it or not.
That's great. See, my love language is very much, like you said, the quality time together, but also like I'm big on words of affirmation. I'm big on supporting my people, like making sure that they are being gentle with themselves. Like,
okay, I get that. I'm good at that for other people. I don't
know if other people for sure.
I don't know if I need that for myself. Do you need that for yourself? I think you grow up getting a lot of praise. So I think I've learned to navigate through a world without having to receive outside praise in order to continue to move forward. My dad was very selfish about praise. My mom was very sweet and like always uplifting and kind. My sister was the same way, but my dad, military man, he wasn't like just throwing out accolades like that. You don't get into the service and you're not.
But when you got him, they're like,
but when I got him, and also he was really great at saying it not in front of me, but to other people. So I found out that he was very proud, that he would brag and all of that stuff. But my dad wanted to keep me tough, right? Like if you coddle someone too much and you praise them too much, number one, you end up having to seek everybody's appraisal and everyone's approval. And you need to learn how to do things without other people's opinions and approval. So
100%. But the friction in our house is Susan's, her love language is acts of service. And so I'm like, let's spend time on the couch. She's like, I'm going to clean these dishes. And we're both trying to show the other person that we value and love the person. But the gap, and that's why the communication is so important, because it's like, hey, I really just kind of like, I'm like, hey, let's order dinner so that we can spend time together so no one's cooking. And then she's like, ooh, I feel weird because now I'm not doing anything and I feel like I'm not using the time well. And so it becomes this friction where now like we cook together and now like, so we'll cook and then we divvy up the responsibility afterwards and then we'll spend time to hang out. So it's become an evolution and a growth. It really has.
I think the person that I'm dating is an acts of service person. Like that's their way of showing love. So she has like cleaned my refrigerator or has done the dishes, or I come home and she's organized my house and I'm over there like, thanks. Like that was great and all, but I would rather have this conversation about our emotions. Like I'd rather have, can we talk about our last disagreement and how we're going to move forward with this so we're not repeating the same thing. And so it's, she's definitely a doer. And that's great. I guess I need to learn how to receive that as a sign of this person is caring for you. Whereas I'm just like, it's going to get done. It just didn't have to get done right now.
I'll be doing something and like look at her like, is that really time sensitive? Did that really have to get done this second?
Right.
Like, let's just hang out and chill. But I had to like learn and I had to grow, and it's still a constant battle where I'm like, my internal mechanism is like, I don't like that she's doing that. And it's like, wait, she's doing this explicitly to show me that she cares. So how about you take yourself out of it and be more appreciative of this person who cares enough to do for you? And so that's what's been like the ongoing growth for me. But it's interesting to like the difference between someone's love language and then like red flags, because we've all been in, not maybe you've been in fantastic relationships. I've been in the history, not the best relationships in the past. And what it taught me was how I like to be loved, or how I like to show my love, or how I like to demonstrate it. And it let me learn more what I wasn't looking for, what were red flags for me. Like the analogy I'm using for people when I'm talking about this is when people start the house hunt, they think I want a house. And then they say, well, what don't you want? And they start listing off stuff that they've gone through. Like, like for me, I have, since I was 18, no, that's not true. Since I graduated college to my big age of 39, I've spent 3 years in apartments or like row homes. And I learned from that is if I'm paying for my space, I don't want to hear when you come home. I don't want to hear you above me. I don't want to hear you next door. I don't want shared walls. I learned that. We lived in Philly. We lived in a row home. It was a great situation. We were in North Philly near the park, near the zoo. We watched it start to get gentrified. I blamed Susan and she laughed. I was like, I wasn't kidding. And as we left, I was like, I don't want to share walls with folks. I don't want that. And then we moved to Atlanta. We rented a house here in Atlanta. And again, the acts of service. She loved the house we were in. And I did too. It was a great little rental house. But she was like, I'm going to tame this yard. And I was like, it's not yours, right? And one of the funniest things she says I ever said was the day we moved out, I said, I will never mow a lawn I don't own again. And that was a big thing for me. Like, I'm okay with having yard work. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's a thing I got to do. But I really disdain it if I know it's not my yard.
Not mine. You know, it's so interesting that you say that, because I was like that when I was a renter in general. Yeah. When you came, I've always kind of hosted parties and things here and there because I do like to entertain, and I love to feed people. Yeah. And so every now and then, wherever I was staying and I would host something, it's going to be very minimal when you walked into my rental. I did not believe in decorating and putting all this money and time into something that wasn't mine. It was always in my head temporary. So even no matter what space I lived in, yes, I had furniture and things like that, but I wasn't hanging stuff on the walls. I wasn't repainting and doing accent walls and adding shelving and blah, 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 and making it personalize my home. It was my home. It was my shit. If it's not mine, I'm not doing all this stuff for it, for you to charge me for the improvements that I made to your dwelling, and it's not mine. So yeah, I've always felt that way. I wasn't never improving anything that wasn't mine.
And then once you decided to become a homeowner, you had like a sharper focus. I think that like people we do the pre-quals and you show people how much they've spent renting over time and they have a reaction. And you're like, look, this was not just like failed relationships. They weren't wasted time. Sometimes they were, but we've all had that. We've rented the place we never should have rented, or dated someone we never should have dated. But by and large,
I don't believe that. No. I'm going to stop you there. I do not believe that. I think that you are where you are based on the decisions that you made, right? And when you know better, you do better. And I think that we have to be kinder when ourselves and the decisions that we made at the time were based on the individual things that we were dealing with. There's a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda that we have as human beings, right? Like if I had done this, my life would be different. Yes, if you had done that, that life would be different to the point that you would not be here, right? You would not be you. You would not necessarily be with Susan. You would not have that little being that you guys have created. Everything led you here, and the lessons that you learn and still need to continue to learn have led you here, right? And I think that there's a need to be grateful for even the shittiest or the not so kind or the times that we dated below our level or even above our level, or we didn't show up the way that we were supposed to. All counts to get us to here. So no regrets. That's all I'm saying.
Never regrets. Never. I may have misspoken there. Never regrets. Just situations where I knew going into it that it was a bad idea. Like, oh, this isn't the best idea. I'm going to do it anyway.
But I think that also teaches you how to trust your gut more, though, right? Like there are so many times you get reminded of, damn, I should have trusted my gut on that.
Right.
Like, I knew something was off about this, and I still went forward anyway, which allows you to learn to trust your intuition, your gut, your spirit, whatever that is, right? That you say to yourself that there is a reason why you can rely on your own intuition. And we always get warnings. Do you believe that? I believe you get warnings all the time.
Mid-20s, Daniel really would have used this pep talk. Would have been like, "Oh, this is good. I can justify a lot of my decisions this way. Oh, I was learning."
Like you get like the yellow lights, and then it turns orange, and then the shit turns red, and sometimes your ass gets bashed over the head, right? Because you're just not choosing to listen, and it's just like life is gonna give it to you. But we all get warning signs. We just be ignoring that shit because it's just not what we want.
It's very true. It's very true. So one of the things Annie brought up, our producer Annie handles everything behind the scenes. She handles all the posting. Thank you so much, producer Annie. We're going to have her voice on here.
For me, side note,
eventually.
She is my person in every step of the way.
But she pointed out something that was brought up in this year's Love is Blind, attachment styles in adult relationships.
I just took the test. Did you take the test?
I haven't taken the test. Okay. Now I've got to know. Before we get into anything else, what did the test tell us about Lacresa? What is your attachment style?
Secure attachment. So the great thing about this little attachments assessment, which of course comes with a charge of $27 if you want it broken down even more and with steps in order to nurture your style or whatever. So there's 4 basic styles of attachment. I am secure attachment. And it is all right. I just kind of pulled it up. So I can tell you real quick. Yes. It says, congratulations, having a secure attachment style is great news. Either your needs are adequately met during your formative years, or else you worked hard on your relationships and circumstances to get you to where you are emotionally in life. So that's the general synopsis of secure. And it goes into a little bit more detail. But there are 4 different styles of attachment. There's dismissing attachment, fearful avoidant attachment, preoccupied attachment, and secure attachment. I can't tell you about the other ones because that's not me. I can only tell you that I got diagnosed as secure attachment. And it goes into your relationship, not only with yourself, but also with your partners, past, present, your father and your mother. So it kind of lets you know the major kind of tenets of your attachment style. But I am secure, which basically probably means that I am overly independent. So that is great in a sense that I don't need constant validation within my relationships because I know it. I feel what my relationships are. I know my level of closeness and connectedness with relationships that I have because I pay attention to how they are. I am very intentional about my relationships with the people in my life. I think that all relationships take work, whether it's with yourself, with God, with your family members, with your friends, with your partner. Every relationship takes work. That's why it's a relationship, right? And so I'm very intentional about my relationships. And so it allows me to have some security in how I feel people will show up. I also take people as they are. And I put people in different categories. There are levels to my relationships. There are people that are my go-tos and there are people that are my sometimes. And I'm okay with you being a sometimes person. I don't expect you to be my go-to. So I think as long as you know what type of relationships you have with those people, it allows you to be more secure.
So I haven't taken the test.
I feel like you would be secure. I don't know.
I feel like 39-year-old Daniel is very secure in this kind of attachment just because, but also it makes me think about I had to grow into this place. Like I wasn't always here. And I look at kind of the 4 types and I'm like, ooh, anxious, preoccupied, always trying to prove yourself. Ooh, that sounds eerily familiar to the past, Daniel. So I was just like, this is interesting because one, I like that it allows the evolution of the person, but 2, you're right. Like it's reading off as you read off secure, like that's kind of particularly in my primary relationship with my wife. Like and again, that's also 12 years together and a kid and moved to cities and all that fun stuff. We've been through a lot. And so we've leaned on each other through hard times, through easy times. It's been earned. the security there, and that's been earned for us.
I think, yes, it's been earned. I would also say that you still believe in it, right?
Yes.
Because there are people where security has been earned. At the same time, they have to know how to receive it,
That's
right?
a good point.
Because if you are coming from a place where you've never had that type of security in your relationships and you've felt abandoned, been abandoned, all of that stuff, even someone showing up consistently and earning it doesn't allow you to see it unless you can see it in that sense. So it's, you guys are at a great point where you see each other and you've earned it from each other, but you also acknowledge it, right? That you are, you're giving it and you're receiving it. I think some people only know how to do one or the other, either give it or receive it. They don't know how to have both.
What's interesting in reading over all four is kind of you watch it happen with different clients and like people in the home buying process, like people who are like who will jump on the first, like, and I think like even reading this back, I was like, ooh, is this how I approached home buying the first time? I was like, ooh, the first house looks great. Like, no, like let's take our time, let's be realistic, let's be smart. And so I guess this is why I love talking to real estate agents and you in particular, because my job is less emotional. My job is very much, do the numbers make sense? Then let's make it happen. For you guys, it's very much like
all emotion.
Therapist.
It's all emotion. It's
all emotion.
Emotion. Your finances are emotional. Your relationship with the person that you're buying with is emotional, or its relationship with your past history of housing is freaking emotional. How you decision make is emotional. Like I am, yes, it's a lot. We carry a lot. We do.
It's really, it's more impressive every time I think about it, because you've got to literally, it's particularly when there's more than one buyer. If there's a couple, heaven forbid that couple is not married or doesn't been together the longest, they're like, we just really want to buy something together, and you watch them learn their attachment styles. You watch them learn their communication styles in the process. When you've got, I've had a situation,
communication style at all. Let's be clear.
I've had certain clients call me and say, "Oh, I know what my partner said, but here's what I'm really thinking." Like, wait a second, y'all need to talk.
Come on, exactly, right? So it is it it's interesting how I think people think they are, I guess, going back and circling back to this whole love loves blind, is like you walk in thinking that you show up one way, and then you get into the situation and people actually see how you show up, and that how nose blind you've been to how you show up. I can say that based on relationship styles and first housing. So I bought my first house. I had it in my name. I think you know this story, but they don't. So I was living in Virginia Highlands, just happy as a little clam in my cheap little apartment. And we decided to buy a house, me and my ex-husband, i.e., I bought the house in my name because that's how my daddy taught me, because we weren't married yet. And so we buy this house. He found it. It was over in English Avenue. It was super affordable. So I felt comfortable about buying it in my name because I could carry the mortgage regardless of what happened to us. Because I knew my shit was cracked before I even was getting into this thing with him to marry him and to move into this house. And so I can say I had no attachment to this house because I had barely an attachment to this relationship. I was just in this relationship that was moving forward. So had I taken that assessment in 2008, it would not be so secure. It would be a lot of dismissal. It would be a lot of probably avoidant category. And some of that was just me having to learn myself after the divorce and why I chose the decisions that I chose and the people that I chose. And so when it talks about either you grew up really secure or you worked on it, I have really worked on it. I can say that I definitely have probably been in those other quadrants in my 20s, in my 30s, in my early 40s. I'm 47. Daniel hasn't gotten there yet, all 39. But yeah, no, that's where I am now. That's not where I've always been.
As you were talking about like the things that Susan and I had gone through and kind of the secure place we landed in, there was a time we could not grocery shop together. because I hated the way she grocery shopped. She hated the way I grocery shopped. It was like, hey, I'm gonna get groceries. Okay, cool. I'll see you in 20 minutes. And like it was, it was the thing we wouldn't do together. Now we can do it. We decided on having a child. We decided on all those things. But there was a point in time where legitimately we could not walk into a grocery store together and like be together and shop. It was just like, because I am classic. I don't want to say meathead. I'll say outcome-oriented shopper. I was like, here's the thing.
Wait. What is an outcome-oriented shopper?
I'm not here.
What does that mean?
I'm this way today about shopping in general. Like if we're like, hey, I need jeans. Guess what? We go into the jeans store, we buying jeans, and we leaving. We're not going to the stores before the jeans store. We're not going to look at other things in the jeans store.
I get that.
How about these shoes? I didn't come here for shoes, damn it. I came here for jeans. I'm leaving with jeans. And like it's the same way. Like we go down the aisle, I'm like, we're gonna go down this aisle. What? She goes, nothing on the list in this aisle. She's like, but what if there's something else you didn't think of that it should have made the list?
I love that about you. I'm that way about clothing shopping. I am not that way about grocery shopping.
I'm less that way now. I've gotten better. I'm less of a crazy person about it now. But yes, I am. I was that way, and I had to learn and grow and evolve. But it's very funny because you're like, "Yo, you guys have made all this. You got a little child." I'm like, "Yeah, but there was a point, man. You couldn't put us in a grocery store."
And then you always have to make a list too.
I don't have, not anymore. Not anymore. We're 12 years in. There's kind of staples around the house. I can walk through the grocery store and know that I'm generally involved enough in the house where I know what's low, what we need, what we actually have. There's very rare when I buy
person though, like that's what is your thing before that. Like you were like, this is what I need, this is what I'm going to get. I'm in, I'm out, I'm done.
Yeah. I was very, this is all very utilitarian. Like I'm not here to see what new cereals are out. No, I'm here for oranges. I'm here for like I'm here for Frosted Flakes. Like, nah, man, this is what it is. And so
yeah.
Okay. So yes, I was the weirdo. I need to get we're having s'mores, graham crackers, chocolate, and marshmallows. What about we don't need that. We're not here for that. We came here for these three things. Like, let's knock it out and get done with it. And so I had to teach myself to be less rigid about certain things and be, because I was like you say, your dad, military guy. I was a football player. Like I was like, there's a certain way to do. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, and don't do it the wrong way. And so it's just these walls in my head that I had to knock down and allow myself to grow and become more accepting of other ways to do things. But it's the same way in this whole process. It's like your way isn't the only way, and because it's your way doesn't make it the best. You got to learn to accept that the things you do may not be the way. It's just a way.
No, it's just a way. And also, can we go a little bit deeper when we get into relationships? Like, if it bothers me and you love me and it's not that big of a deal, you don't need to die on that sword, right? No. You don't need to die on the sword of this is the way to shop. This is the way to do this. Like, it's amazing how people will die on a sword in a relationship that is not that inconsequential to you, except for you making a slight little change, a slight little deviation, or being open to doing something slightly different. That will mean the world to your partner and feeling seen and feeling heard, but you're just being an ass and you're just like, this is just how I do things. And you're like, you can be right and alone. You can be right and quite lonely. Like, why?
It's and so much of it's tied to ego, and so much of it's tied to the inability to see outside of ourselves, and a lot of it is. And again, this goes back to the whole process, the life, love, real estate. If you can take yourself out of it and depersonalize it and say, oh, is this really important? And it's also the idea of kind of culturally been told you got to win things in a relationship. You got to keep score. Like that's not how relationships work. That's not how any relationships work. If my friend covers me for a movie, it's not like, well, now I owe him $12. It's like, oh, next time I'll cover him for the movie. Like it's not about tick marks. And if you try to keep things that way, you're going to go insane and you're going to submarine this thing that you say you want to build.
Absolutely. It's I love so I feel like I should have been like there's no should. Number one. Oh, side note, I have removed the words like should and but from my language and try because I find them to be very limiting. And I realize that the words I attach around those things when it comes to should, it's like me telling you that there's only one way to do things because it's the way I think things should be done. And that's ridiculous. But I feel allows you to negate, you might say these lovely, wonderful things. And as soon as you add the but, it negates all of the lovely, wonderful things that you said before the but for me. And then when it comes to try, it's like either you're doing it or you're not. Right. There's try just gives you the reason to say, like, I'm going to try to give you an excuse to put off time to just, so there's all of those things. And now I don't know where I was going because I went on that tangent. Give me a second.
But the tangent's a place you need to be. It's a place we need to explore because that is very important because you're talking about limiting language. You're talking about the words used around our house. Like even in our house, when we talk about our students like, oh, I hate my hair today. Like, man, I wish you wouldn't say that. I wish you talk more positive to yourself. And now it's so prescient because we know Matthew's listening. Like he'll repeat things that we say now.
Oh,
and so it's become very
I love that
self-love.
So much.
The self-love and the self-affirmation is now becoming more important because we want to model that positive energy, the positive self-visualization for the kid. We don't want him to say XYZ about himself in 4 or 5 years. And so and it's something small, and like you said, it's just the specificity with the language that we choose. And I think that has been a big difference maker for us kind of in the last few months, honestly, where we've just been kind of cognizant of this little man is copying us now. He's doing things that we do. Maybe we should police kind of what we do differently.
Well, modeling is such a huge thing, right? And I think we all have modeled ourselves after whoever we've been around. And it starts off obviously with our family structure, our parents, our friends, our siblings, or et cetera. And then we learn ourselves through modeling and also learning that those particular things work for them and may not work for me. And so, but language is, oh my God, it's such a huge one. So even though I went off on my tangent, I'm glad that we are there because that's one of the reasons why I did eliminate should, most importantly, because I realized that it was my ego, my point of view that I was pushing on someone else. And who am I to tell you how things should go, how things should work out, how you navigate the world. I can just say that from my perspective, from my experience, from my knowledge, I can have you consider this or have you consider that. But for me to put a should on you, I try to be very conscious about not doing that to others. Or even doing it to myself, because I think we do it to ourselves more than we do it to others. I should have accomplished this by now. I'm 47. I'm approaching 50, right? You're approaching 40, closer than I'm approaching 50. But
that was uncalled
for. You
start
to think about those things and you start to have these tape measures of life by, I should have accomplished this by now. I should have done this. I should have gone this route. I should have gone that route. And it just makes you disappointed with everything around you. To me, it does.
And it robs you of perspective. It robs you of what you have accomplished. It robs you of the positive outcomes that you have achieved. And so, like, even something as small as when Matthew has this little toy that he likes to climb on, and we don't say don't do that, or we don't say no. We like, is that feel safe? Is that a smart choice?
Ooh.
Like we try to very like, and it's something that to the point where if I said no to him, it would feel weird coming out of my mouth.
Oh, wow.
Like if I was just screaming at my son, like that feels so weird to me because we've cultivated a place where it's like, hey, like we have a fireplace in our living room and he's a little mantle he likes to climb on. And when he was smaller, the climbing was like a little bit more precarious. And I was like, does this feel safe? But I'm watching him become more confident with it. When he climbs, we have so many stairs in our stupid house. And we like to be like, hold the railing. And so he uses the railing to climb down. But he'll be carrying like an Elmo. And I'll be like, do you want to hold the railing? No. And he'll hold his hand out for me. He knows he needs help still. but he doesn't want the help that he's had there before. So I'm like, all right, I'll hold your hand. Come on down. And it's just because we don't want to rock him with that curiosity and that confidence, but at the same time, I don't want the baby falls downstairs. Those are also bad stories. So I'm trying to cut
Bad
split the
story.
difference.
I can say, side note, I'm a baby that fell downstairs. So, it turned out okay. I don't know if my sister would appreciate me telling this story, or my cousins, because they got in horrible trouble. But I was a baby that fell down the stairs. I started walking at like 9 months. I was very 9 or 10 months, my mom said, and I was a very active little monkey. No black pun intended, but that's just what they called me. And so I was climbing on everything, and my cousins, my sister is 7 years older. And then the cousins, that her group of cousins, obviously they're a couple years older than her. So they were 8, 9, 10 years older. And they were walking up and down the stairs, apparently, in this one place that my Aunt Flora lived in. May she rest in peace. And so I was following them up and down the stairs, and I got to the top of the stairs and I tumbled down a flight of stairs, and I lost a tooth, and I was had a slight concussion and had to go to the hospital. And my Aunt Flora spanked all of them for not paying attention to what I was doing, even though I wouldn't have paid attention to them telling me what to do anyway. Ended up in a hospital. And then, the whole thanks. Yes.
No, there's a whole, no. Before, I know we're nearing the end of the time. That was a great story. I have a question. Civilian concussions. What are those like? So true story.
Yeah.
I played football my entire life. I've never been diagnosed with a concussion because
you play football. They want you on the field.
Well, there's that. But also, when I got to college, they did the physicals. And they're like, okay, we're going to do all the questions. And they're like, how many stingers have you had? And those who don't know, play football or anything, a stinger is kind of like you get hit a certain way, and literally it feels like someone cracked an egg on your head. It's warm. It rolls down your body. It's nerve damage. And they go, how many stingers did you have in high school? And I said, a game? And they looked at me like I was crazy. And so I said, just kidding, 4, and kept it moving. And so when later on, remember, mind you, this is Colombia where no one cares about sports. They go, we're going to take a concussion test now where you have to answer a bunch of questions and match some things up. And that way, so if you get a concussion on the field, they have a baseline for you to see if you can go back and play. And an upperclassman pulled me aside and said, bomb the baseline. He goes, what? I go, bomb the baseline. I go, why? He goes, if you bomb the baseline, they'll never know if you're actually concussed or not. You can go back. And I was like, that's so smart. So I bombed my baseline. And so, but again, I never even got suspected of a concussion. The one I know I had, we're playing Harvard my junior year, and we threw a pick because we're Columbia. I'm covering the pass, trying to make sure the guy doesn't score, and I get hit super hard. I get hit so hard, my feet are in the air, my helmet's in the ground. It is bad. My next clear memory is getting yelled at on the bench by our offensive line coach because I turn to my left tackle, my best Matt Barsamian. I go, why is he yelling at me? He says, you missed the block on sketch. I go, my last memory was the pick. He goes, that was 2 series ago. And I was like, well, we didn't have this conversation, buddy. And we kept moving. That's to say, you've had more diagnosed concussions than I had.
That is crazy. That makes a lot of sense when it comes to the NFL and CTE and everything else. And especially, growing up in the South, and I went to high school in Valdosta. So when Daddy retired, he was from Lakeland, Georgia, which is next to Valdosta, which is Titletown, USA.
Yes, I know Titletown.
And so everything is about football down there. Pop Warner football, it starts when you're 5.
Yeah.
So concussions aren't something that is discussed down there because these kids are literally getting their heads bashed in.
Yeah.
Starting at 5 and 7, and the crowd is cheering it on, and they have boosters, and it's a way of life, and it's a way of having security for your family as well.
For sure.
Education, it's a multi-layered thing. So, but yes, so I fell down a flight of stairs. I had a slight concussion. I've had near-death experiences many times in my life, by the way. So this was this was my second. Sorry. I was born with the umbilical cord around my neck, but they caught it fast enough to kind of scoop it around before I came out.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then, so I fell down these stairs. They take me to the hospital. My Aunt Flora is there with me to stay overnight because my mom, having 2 kids, young, she's working all of those things, and maybe she was working second shift or something. And God is good. And my Aunt Flora woke up in the middle of the night to me trying to climb out of the crib. And these is an old hospitals, right? So these are concrete buildings with the linoleum floors. And so I almost fell and hit the linoleum concrete floor. And then I would have really not been here because I already had a slight concussion from falling down the stairs. And so my aunt woke up and was like, got me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you didn't hit the linoleum floor.
So going back to falling down the stairs, he'll be fine. Just tell him not to crawl out of the crib after falling.
That's our new concern, by the way, because he's gotten tall enough to where like he sleeps in a sleep sack. But I'm like, oh man, once he's up, we got to go get him. We can't let him just hang out in the mornings because he may start crawling out of the bed. But Lacressa,
all I did was lose a tooth, by the way, from the step falling down the steps. So.
I'm gonna not tell Susan that story. just for me. I'm just gonna not tell her that story. She's
gonna be like, that's what's wrong with Lacressa. I get it now. Makes total sense. It all adds up.
Lacressa, will you do me a huge favor and tell everyone where they can find you and if they want to reach out to you for all their real estate needs?
This is such a wild, crazy conversation. Oh, okay, people. I mean, get used to tangents because I will go down one and then forget why I started there. So Lacressa Morrow, LAC sells ATL on Instagram. You can just Google me, Lacressa Morrow, and you'll find my number. It's been the same number forever. I'm with KW in town. Yeah, I'm willing to help or just to have a conversation with you about real estate, to help your friends, your family, with any advising that they need. So yeah, call me, seek us out. I have a great team and we're here to support you.
Thank you so much. Daniel Palmer, Shelter Home Mortgage, once again, helping you guys navigate through pathways to home ownership through life, love, and real estate. Thanks again, once again, to our fabulous producer, Miss Annie. We're going to have her on camera for a little bit next week. Watch out for that. But we're excited to be back. See you guys in 2 weeks with more life, love, and real estate.
Bye-bye.